people who have been on a spiritual journey or who have practiced something, meditation, yoga, something that's brought them to a place where they have a framework, maybe even have had an experience. But how does that apply in a world where most of us are running with kids? You know, we have kids on one side of we got a wife or husband over here. We have a job that's put more on our plate than we want. How do we bring that in any way into
life?
Yeah.
I'm on something like 16 boards. I run 2 family offices and a venture fund, and I have 3 kids, an ex-wife and a wife. And I take my kids to school every day. I pick them up from school every day. I pay taxes. I'm in traffic in the 405 in Los Angeles. And I notice that any moment that I find myself getting stressed or having any sense of anxiety or anything, it relies on a story of a past or a future. If I can drop from my mind into my body at any given moment, there may be sensations in my body, physical discomfort, but if I can sort of, almost like the energy drops from this mental high in the head state to the body, sometimes to the gut, sometimes to the heart, and just feel the sort of the energy, the aliveness without the labels, then I'm in the moment. And in that moment, it doesn't matter if I've done 3 runs to my kids' schools and I'm late to my appointment and blah, 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 all the other stories about past and future. In that moment, I'm just here. And what I notice is that all this mental mechanism of telling me, wow, you're late, traffic isn't moving, you've already done so much today, and your kids are not listening to you, all that, what it's essentially trying to do is trying to help. It's just not really helping. Because I don't need all of that story. If I believe or not believe that story, it's not going to impact traffic, but it will impact how I'm relating to the moment.
So this idea, and I think that's really good, because I think most of us, regardless of how much we know about someone else, still feel like I understand that they can do it. But if they just knew what I had going on, it wouldn't be so easy. But the reality is, and I would ask you, I guess, and the people that you know in the circles that is this possible? Again, are you completely unique in the ability to handle 16 boards, 2 family offices, 3 kids, an ex-wife, a wife, all of those things? Are you unique, or is this something that's available for anyone?
I think the idea that it was unique was what kept me circling around and spinning. Because I would read these books about these sages and gurus and masters, and they all typically, or I would hold them as these special beings that lived somewhere in a monastery or were teachers, and their whole life was dedicated to teaching, and so of course they can meditate all day, of course they can, they can do this, they're not dealing with life, right? And I was holding on to the idea that this was a unique, special set of circumstances that would make that available. And what I've discovered, I do a lot of mentoring with entrepreneurs that are very engaged in startups, which, there's a lot of intensity in startups. It's possible for all of us. It really is. And I think the trick, at least that my mind was playing on me in this seeking dynamic, was that it was very convinced that there was going to be a state that was going to be permanent. And it doesn't take a lot of investigation to realize that no state is or has ever been permanent or will ever be permanent. The nature of every experience is to change. So if I'm holding peace or bliss or never stress as the goal, once I experience that all the time, then I'll be okay. Then I'll have arrived. That just keeps the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And keeps the seeking energy always moving.
So this idea of one moment,
yeah,
is it just being in this one moment and then being in the next? Like it is a question. It is a question of just staying in a sense of presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just this moment.
And that will, how would you respond to people who, like what I could hear is, yeah, but I have to be thinking about what, like, I have a wife who is extraordinarily efficient. And so a lot of her day is organizing to be most efficient with her time. So our conversations in the morning are what's happening, this and then this and this, to maximize time and resources and so on.
Yeah.
how do you deal with planning and forward thinking and those things when a goal or effort is trying to be made to be more present?
That they're not mutually exclusive.
Okay, say more about that.
See, that's where I was getting hooked up. I was thinking, okay, if I'm present, then I'm not thinking about the future, I'm not planning. And see, the mind is an amazing tool. If we need to plan, we bring that tool out. And we plan, and we have this, my wife is incredibly efficient. She works, 10-hour days, 12-hour days. She's a very hard worker, and she plans and she does. And when it comes to our house and things, I have to be on board with planning and setting dates and scheduling. Where it gets tricky is when we think that in this planning, we create so much attachment to the outcome or the plan actually happening to the degree that we lay it out, that we outsource our sense of okayness to them. That's the only thing that gets tricky, because I can plan right now. I can be present planning. And I can be not present planning, and we feel the difference.
Yeah. So I think that it reminds me of this, I don't know if I'll get the quote right, but when you're present or doing in this, everything's the same, but it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
The experience is completely different. You're still doing the same things. Life is still involved, it's still the same stuff. You're still picking up your kids, you're still sitting in the board meeting, you're still mentoring this person or this team, but where you are from how you're doing it, and the experience could be completely different.
Completely different. It's literally like changing the orientation through which we're moving. And one orientation is, I know better what should be happening.
Mm.
I grew up Catholic, and at one point I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be the Pope, of course, because I was ambitious.
It's like the main priest.
If I'm going to be a priest, I'm going to be the priest. We have this idea of, we've all heard it, God's will. And it's almost like we say, yeah, God's will, as long as it aligns with my will. And what we're talking about really ends up being the recognition that it's all, whether you want to call it God, love, universe, it's all what's happening.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that we don't have an impact and a responsibility to show up in the ways that we show up. But when we're not fighting, see, when we're stuck in a story about what just happened and how it should have or shouldn't have happened, or how someone else is behaving or is not behaving, then we're just hurting. We're just in our heads creating this whole drama.
How do you look at it? It's like, I feel like what kept popping in is like the news. It feels like the news is the antithesis of what you're kind of saying. Like, its job is to create story.
Yeah.
And keep us moving back and forth as to what should be happening or what shouldn't be happening. How do you view, I guess, media? Like, you have a lot of experience in just that aspect of the world as well, but how do you view what's happening in media these days?
You know when you watch a I don't know if it's ever happened to you. You're looking at a view, and it may be the mountains, it may be something else, and the person next to you makes a comment about how bad something is, and you hadn't really noticed that there was a bush that was sort of hurt, or a little something that was happening. It's not that you were in denial, but your attention wasn't going to what was wrong. Mm. And I think media tries to draw our attention to what's wrong. I think I work with a lot of activists, people that are in small nonprofits and in multi-billion-dollar nonprofits. What I've noticed is that the most efficient and effective people at creating impact are the ones that are operating from that internal piece. Most of the people that are out there doing great work have unresolved wounds inside of themselves, and they're trying to cure the outside in a way to justify what happened to them and make it okay. It's like, oh, then what happened to me ultimately had a purpose, and now I get to do this, and I somehow even it out and heal it.
Okay.
I once heard Jane Goodall. Jane is amazing. I don't even know how to call her environmentalist, but much more than that. And somebody, we have a program with her where we're building educational programs throughout the world for the environment. And somebody asked her, what do we do with all these crazy people that are poaching animals and cutting down trees totally carelessly. And she said, we find them jobs. She said, if I had to feed my family, and it even moves me just thinking about it, if I had to feed my family, I don't know that I wouldn't be doing the same exact thing. Yes, that's someone that travels 300 days out of the year in her 80s for this cause. And she has the spaciousness inside of herself to have compassion and see other human beings suffering and to provide a holistic approach. I mean, wow.